Welcome back. As we earlier said, the Ambassadors Climate Change Program, which under the name or under the title Enhancing Climate Change Adaptation or Adaptation in North Coast and Nile Delta regions in Egypt. The project aims at training qualified ambassadors for the project, and His Excellency Irrigation Minister Dr. Hani Swalem made an announcement as he received a report on the launch of the program in the presence of 40 cadres concerned with the domain of integrated management of coastal areas on the Mediterranean. And to shed light on that very important topic, we're very delighted to be joined over the phone live by Mrs. Amira Sayed, the journalist and political and economic analyst. Good morning, Mrs. Amira.
Good morning.
How are you doing? First, we need to get a thorough look over the program itself under the title Enhancing Climate Change Adaptation in North Coast and Nile Delta regions in Egypt. How exactly was it formed, and what are the targets of that program?
Yeah. So this program targets the areas of like the North Coast and the Nile Delta. It aims to enhance the adaptation measures in these areas, and we have to bear into consideration that the Nile Delta is the most vulnerable area in Egypt to the impacts of climate change. So now the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation is trying to handle the fast-growing impacts of climate change by, we can say, by honing the skills of the experts in order to be able to address these challenges. So this program was launched and in the presence of around 30 people from the authorities concerned from different ministries like the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, Agriculture, and so on. So this program is trying to both enhance the skills of those experts and also building the capacities of those people in order to be like climate ambassadors, which is the main name of the whole program. And definitely we have to take into consideration that the Nile Delta area is very important in terms that it's responsible for like 12% of the country's GDP, and it's also home to around like 40 million people in Egypt, and 1/5 of Egypt's labor force work in this area. So this step came within the framework of the broader strategy to address the issue of climate change in the North Coast and Nile Delta. Yeah.
Right. What about the qualifying those cadres and training them and also spreading the awareness? Probably they were also trained. Part of their mission is to spread awareness amongst the community also and amongst the society, because it's very important, the awareness part.
Exactly. As I mentioned now, these two, like the fast-growing challenges resulted from the climate change. Now it's very important to drive collective action in order to address this challenge. This definitely requires like to spread the public awareness of this important issue, and also engaging all stakeholders in order to like achieve like swift solutions to this problem. So this program in particular, it aims to enhance the adaptation measures related to climate action. It aims to also train those people on the so-called integrated water or integrated management of this area. This integrated management, it seeks to address both the adaptation measures in the Nile Delta and North Coast, and also enhance the use of the nature-based solutions. Regarding the nature-based solutions, it aims to like treat, definitely nature is bearing the brunt of climate change, but also can be an ally in facing climate change. So this program also is focusing on increasing the use of nature-based solutions in order to enhance the adaptation measures in the Nile Delta and the North Coast. Yes.
Right. How is this program going to help the cadres and also their counterparts? I mean, people who are might not be having enough knowledge or enough awareness about the challenges of climate change, and how is it essential and a priority for sustainable development. In order to execute the 17 goals of sustainable development, number one priority is to stand up to the challenges of climate change. And this is what President Abdel Fattah Sisi have always said in every encounter. So how is that program going to qualify society and qualify different cadres for that idea?
Mm-hmm. So this program definitely provides the required knowledge to, in terms of the technical knowledge required to face climate action, and in the meanwhile, it helps to build the capacities of those people who are at the forefront of climate action. As I mentioned, the main target of this program is to qualify those people, those experts in the authorities concerned, those people who are at the forefront of climate action in these both areas which are hardest hit by the severe impact of climate change. It focuses on the leadership skills, the communication skills, in addition to the technical skills. So definitely this program is very important, because when we are trying to address the issue of climate change, it's very important first to hone the skills and qualify people with the required knowledge to address the severe challenges of climate change. So definitely the program is starting with 40 people, that in the upcoming period there will be more people who will be trained and there will be more qualified cadres in this area. So definitely it's a very important step, and it also came within the framework of Egypt's national climate change strategy, which was launched in 2022, and it aims to ensure the integration of climate change dimension into general planning of all sectors in the country. Yeah.
Right. How do you assess the efforts exerted by the state to defend the Nile Delta against the coastal flooding damage and to improve the resilience of rural community? Let's start off with the Nile Delta first.
Yeah, definitely, as I mentioned, that Nile Delta is the most vulnerable to the severe impacts of climate change, the rising sea levels, and also the salinity of the fertile area in this area. We have to mention that the Nile Delta is rich in terms of the arable land, the land that can be cultivated. So definitely, when we are speaking of like the rising sea levels and also the salinity of land, so definitely it will have a direct impact on the issue of food security, and consequently this the climate change will like affect also the job opportunities of people. So now farmers are complaining or are suffering and grappling with the severe impacts of climate change. That's why the country is now taking swift steps in order to address this problem, especially as I mentioned, all the scientific studies, and also it has become crystal clear now that the Nile Delta is is the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. We have seen the rising sea levels. We have seen now it affected also the land, that is the fertile land of the Nile Delta. As I mentioned, around 40 million people live in this area, so it's very important to address this challenge. Yeah.
What about the rural communities, other rural communities? What type of problems also that might come up?
Yeah, definitely. We cannot overlook the socio-economic impact of climate change. When we are thinking that climate change has a direct impact on food security, on job opportunities, so definitely it will have also an economic impact on those people. So now it's very important to enhance the knowledge of rural communities to be part of the solution as well. We can spend like many years speaking of the impacts of climate change, but actually it's time now to try to focus on solutions. How can also these rural communities become, we can say, one of the key factors of addressing the climate change, how to enhance this knowledge to adopt more environmentally friendly practices to curb the severe impacts of climate change, definitely.
Right, of course, and also there is the role of enhancing climate change adaptation in North Coast and Nile Delta regions, Egypt project, when it comes to protecting and preserving the natural resources everywhere. I mean, like, take it as a leading example. Is this going to happen in the future? I mean, after this program takes its course, what could be the next steps after some achievement is taken in Nile Delta, in North Coast, and other places? So how are things going to evolve and develop?
Definitely, even before the launch of this program, the Egyptian government has been taking many steps in order to enhance the adaptation measures and the North Coast and Nile Delta. We have seen many protection measures that has been taken, like, for example, enhancing the resilience of low-lying lands in this area, how to increase the number of plants in order to, this is what we call the nature-based solutions, how to enhance the adaptation measures while using nature-based solutions, like, for example, enhancing the green area and trying to face the deforestation. So there are already many steps that has been taken even before the launch of this program. This program, as I mentioned, this also goes in tandem with Egypt's national climate strategy. This strategy, which was launched in 2022, it has key 5 goals and also sets direction to achieve each objective. For example, the 5 goals include achieving sustainable economic growth and low-emission development, in addition to enhancing the adaptive capacity and resilience to climate change. It also seeks to enhance climate change action governance. In addition to enhancing the financing infrastructure, and also enhancing the scientific research, the technology transfer, and also knowledge management. So as I mentioned, this program is part of the ongoing efforts by the government to address those the adaptation and mitigation procedures to face climate change. Yeah.
Ms. Amira, when we talk about the climate change and all its challenges and dangers and blocking entirely the face of life on Earth, the fingers are always pointed towards human beings and human practices and economic greed. Like, for example, the burning of fossil fuels, the burning of the carbon emission in general, the use of toxic waste, the use of the toxic substance, and eradicating the endangered species from forests. Using the poison when it comes to the stray dogs inside the streets everywhere in some countries, which is very dangerous. I mean, the handling of poisons. And also the human greed when it comes in burning the forests in order to, displace it with other buildings and stuff like that, etc., etc. So what's your solution, or what's your vision when it comes to practices like that?
Yes, definitely now there is, as I mentioned, there is a national strategy that seeks to ensure there is a swift and just transition to environmentally friendly practices in all sectors. As we mentioned, for example, if we are talking about the Nile Delta, now there is a major effort in order to use the nature-based solution. For example, how to face the erosion of the Nile Delta or of the coast and the coastal line in order to address, which is a result of the climate change. So now we have seen there are now many fences. There are more efforts to curb the rising sea levels in this area. As we mentioned, also even on local level, now citizens, there are many awareness campaigns in order to adopt more environmentally friendly practice. For example, if you are trying to curb the emissions, so now there is a great initiative by the government to, for example, use the electric cars that doesn't use the traditional fuel in order to curb the emissions. Also, we have seen now even in public transportation, there is a major efforts and initiatives to use more environmentally friendly means of transportation. In addition to this, Egypt, we have to mention that Egypt was the host of COP27. So Egypt has has been giving this issue a top priority in terms of how to enhance climate action in both levels, adaptation and mitigation. Mitigation means like curbing the emissions, while adaptation how to create more resilient communities in order to be able to cope up with the impact of climate change. So I think that Egypt both strike a balance between mitigation efforts and adaptation efforts, in addition to trying to find like sustainable financial resources to enhance the climate action.
Right, Mrs. Amira Said, the journalist, would like to thank you so much talking to the Breakfast Show, and we're going to go to a short break and we'll come to continue the show, so stay with us.